lawyer, Jerry Agbonovo, abandoned him at the premises of an Accra court, claiming Wisa and his team failed to properly negotiate the terms of the services. The report indicated that the musician and his manager had failed to properly negotiate the terms and conditions of Jerry Agbonovo's services, who remained tight-lipped over the exact amount to be paid to him as legal fees for his services. I can't even comment on the issue now because we're not supposed to talk about the case because it's ongoing. But the lawyer did not abandon the case. It's not true at all. I'm trying to find the person who came up with the story. We don't have any issues. Everyone is happy, Wisa Great's manager said.
Oh my goodness. We'll definitely get to hear what comes out after the court hearing on 5th of February. But J.K. Rowling on the West Side is to receive a prestigious award from literary and human rights group Pen America. The Harry Potter author will be presented with the Penn Allen Foundation Literary Service Award on the 16th of May at the group's annual Spring Gala in New York. Penn, that's the poets, essayists, and novelists. They say that they were honoring the author in recognition of her support for free expression and charitable causes.
Idris Elba teaming up with the BBC Three for short films. Idris Elba is teaming up with the BBC Three for a series of short films to appear on the channel when it moves online. The Luther Stars production company Green Door Pictures will collaborate with BBC Three in the films from new writers. Established names will work alongside new actors for the series. BBC Three controller Damien Kavanagh vowed the channel, which goes online next month, will be bold, British and creative. He has a budget of 30 million a year for creative ideas, he said at an event to launch the new look channel. Elba, widely considered to have been overlooked for an Oscar nomination for his role in Beasts of No Nation, said, "I'm looking forward to working with BBC Three and giving new writers and actors a chance to show what they can do."
Exactly. Give black folk a chance. There's a lot of...
So do what you can do. Choose the hard way and struggle. And if it be for you, true hard work and determination. Give it to Baba. All the praise for Baba. Give it to Baba. Baby, I'm friend, give it to Baba.
In the industry.
Wow, that's a long time.
30 is plenty. 30 is plenty.
30 years.
And you don't even feel it.
God.
You just turned 50 just over Christmas.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so much you've tried to put together for your own self. I don't even know where to start from. For the benefit of those who actually didn't know how you got into broadcasting, maybe summarize it for us a little bit, how this whole thing began. Because when I was young and I knew you at Jatokroom, you were just a fine gentleman.
You were very
running
little
around
then.
with your dad. And
I think I've known you since you were 12.
Oh, before that.
Yes. Because,
Before that.
actually, I started promoting shows as a 12-year-old at Jatokroom. I used to do these student matinees,
Right.
and people would come over and dance. The whole idea was to get youngsters to be able to entertain themselves without having to go out late. So we'd do these jams from 12 to 6.
Right.
And at 6, we'd close, and my friends and I would polish the disco floors so that my dad could take the place over and do the evening stuff. But it was Collegeman Bannerman. The late Collegeman Bannerman, who saw me once. He had come to one of the programs that we hosted at Jatokroom, and he thought it was just brilliant. That's what he thought at the time. Then they used to call me Magic George. They said, "My name is Magic George. In the world, I'm the master jock. I'm cool as ice and twice as nice," and and all that. And he says, "We're just about to set up a new radio station. It's going to be frequency modulation." I knew what frequency modulation was at the time because I used to just read about radio and people who liked fashion all around the world. And I said, "Wow, frequency modulation in Ghana." He says, "Do you know what that is?" And I says, "Yeah, FM stations. I mean, they're like community stations, and
Right.
they have greater clarity than amplitude modulation." So he liked me immediately.
Right.
And he says, "I think you should be one of the people who starts the station. So we're going to have auditions, and you should come over." I discussed it with my mom, and my mom goes, "My father would not like you to work for somebody, your father, that is. So, he wants you to own your own enterprise. He doesn't want you to be an employee." The Ashanti man that he is. So I don't think he's going to like the idea you're going to work for somebody, let alone an organization that he doesn't think pays well. But I was just crazy about this whole idea of getting an opportunity to address an audience larger than what I was used to.
Yeah.
The largest audience I had addressed to date was maybe 2,000 at a school speech and prize giving day. And then in the nightclub up to maybe 800.
Yeah.
Now with frequency modulation, you could address a whole city. So I went for the audition and I got the job.
Right.
And so from the age of 19, I was already on air. I was going on Collegeman Bannerman's programs. And then by age 20, I'd been hired as a guest artist by GBC, which was the way that you normally hire presenters. You don't give them a job as you do an assistant accountant.
Right.
You hire them as a guest artist. You pay them on a weekly or fortnightly basis. And if they continue doing well, you retain them, you train them, and then hopefully you confirm them.
Right.
And that was the case.
That was how it
So
started
I started
for you.
like that on
End
the
of-
same day as Kofi Ajolulu.
Oh gosh. My goodness. Anyway, so after all of that, we remember the African Disc Jockey Championship that
Oh,
you
yes.
won. How did you get into that, and how did it make you feel after you won that?
I've always liked challenge. If I hear that somebody reads very well, I want to find out what it is they do to make them read so well.
Right.
And then I want to make friends with them or challenge them.
Yeah.
And
Okay, I like
yes,
that.
and that's the way I learn. I constantly make friends all over the world. I have Jewish friends, Indian friends, Nigerian friends, South African friends. But I make friends. I consciously seek people who are exceptional in their field of endeavor, and I make friends with them.
Right.
Because some people are not really rich, but they are exceptional at something. They may be a good tailor, they may be very good at applique making, they may be very good at makeup. And so my friends all over the world are exceptional performers in the field of endeavor. And when I heard about this disc jockey championship, the man who sold it to me said the best disc jockeys from Africa are going to meet there. So
Since you like the challenge.
my motivation was to go and meet the best and prove to them that I am better than the rest.
Right.
And so I said, well,
Why not?
I can't just show up. I mean, ideally, there should be some competition in Ghana to prove that I am the best here.
True.
So a competition was held in Ghana. I won the competition in Ghana, and based on that, I went to represent Ghana there. But you see, at the time, it was very easy to win the competition because very few people knew the art of mixing records. I was the only person who mixed records on radio. And even for that, I was taken off air because it was not allowed for you to play two songs simultaneously.
Yeah.
George Crabb would tell you that he was a controller of programs, Nick Adimado and Joe Kofi. They said, you can't play two songs at the same time. It is
doesn't work.
not done in the civilized world. And I was the only person who also rapped on radio.
Right.
And for that also I was banned from going on air for I think 2 weeks.
Because you rap.
Yes, and I was banned from playing rap music on radio because they said it was not an acceptable form of music for radio in our country. And I constantly fought them and said, look, this is the future of music. This is poetry. And I named it R-A-P. I didn't name it rap, but I named it R-A-P, which is Rhythmic African Poetry. And I constantly would go on air, and then I would go the Dakwa, just another black brother stepping out in the style as serious as cancer. Attitude daga one of an African, you ain't close to me, it's hard to understand. KKD, I am the ACE. We're talking about a brother who knows his history. I ain't a fantasy, you know the deal. Word to the mother, Mr. Dakwa, I'm real.
When I grow up, I want to be just like you.
And
Oh my goodness.
and so it's everything I have done has been based or motivated more by challenge. It's the same with my son and my daughter. We have debate at home, and I remember my son. I would look for people who speak very well. Martin Luther King being one of them, Les Brown another one of them, and I would play their tapes and I would challenge my son to speak on an issue, any topic, and the idea would be to deliver a speech on something, but make sure the speech is no longer than 3 minutes 30 seconds,
Right.
and he would do it, and sometimes he would laugh and say, "Dad, I mean."
You think you're the Don, right?
Really. I don't want to blow my horn, but toot toot. And eventually he won the best youth speaker in the world.
Oh, wow.
And then his little sister won the best youth speaker in the two richest boroughs in England, which is Kensington and Chelsea and Westminster. So we are quite particular about speech and quite particular about the way we address others, because we believe it's possible to live in peace and harmony with everybody. And each one of us, politician, pauper, president, patrician, or plebeian, each one of us must learn to be able to disagree with others without being disagreeable.
True. Fine words, actually. Fine words. I hope somebody's recording it. Anyway, so let's we probably looked at you and how you all started all of this with your African Disc Jockey Championship and all of that. Let's look at your influence on media. You've done your fair bit. In 30 years, you have created a great brand for yourself, and you've done amazing things for radio. A lot of young people have emulated you. You actually have a foundation to help all of this. What do you think about the media, how far we've come, and what do you think about the media right now and everything that's going on?
The media has come a very long way, and it bothers me when people castigate the media in a very, very nasty way. Because it's important for people to understand, the depths from which we have risen, to recognize that we have done very well as a people. Yeah. About 6 years ago, I was in Ghana, and one chauffeur of mine was having a conversation with his friends. We had gone to a workshop, and he said something very interesting, and he says, yes, Kufuor has brought freedom of speech to Ghana. And I laughed, and I said, Kufuor has entrenched freedom of speech in Ghana. But the truth is, the freedom of speech has always been there.
Right.
The only thing is, the speech was in English. So people did not have the freedom to speak the language that they hadn't mastered yet. It was only when radio came now to be in the local languages that people mustered the courage to speak boldly, because then they believed they would be able to put themselves across intelligently.
Yes.
So this whole thing about media, it's first and foremost language. Whether you're writing or you're speaking, it's language. Because if you're writing, your tool is the pen or whatever you're typing on. If you're speaking, your tool is the mouth and the brain. Now, if you have not mastered language, you will not be able to tell your stories as you wish to.
True.
So if you look at the very top of the really good performers on radio, then yes, we have done exceedingly well.
Yeah.
But if you come to the middle and the bottom, then you will complain. But I still don't worry too much about those in the middle and the bottom, because you see, if you want some flowers to grow, you have no choice but to see some weeds grow too.
Yeah.
If you want to uproot all the weeds, I promise you, you will uproot some flowers too. The only thing is that there has to be some sort of regulation. And the regulation must not be towards a punitive end. It should be towards an educational end. So we can pick those who are getting it wrong and take them off air. But don't just drive them away. Take them to school. I don't mean put them in a university class. It could be a short course of 2 weeks. Take them to school. Because you see, if you practice something consistently, you may not become perfect, but you will become professional.
True.
Now, if you learn something consistently, you may not get it all, but some will stick. So if we keep taking people off air and letting them go to school, and requiring, imagine the National Media Commission requiring your station to announce every time your own program is played that you have been taken off air to go back to school because of the
whatever mistake,
the inconsistencies with professionalism.
Yeah.
That's nicer than saying for your stupidity.
Better word.
You've been taken off air because of your inconsistencies with professionalism,
Yeah.
and that you have 2 weeks training, and hopefully when you return, you will be better.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine how people will start looking at you? But I'm glad that, I am so glad that you brought this perspective to it, because I've always argued with people about the fact that even though we're speaking in a local language and we think we can get away with a lot of things, there still remains a lot to be done. And so, like you said, it shouldn't be punitive.
Now, you see,
it's a good way to be able to tell people that something has got to change, and we're doing it the educational way.
It's important, and not only for radio, but for all the professions. I have had calls to speak in restaurants, and my practice and my learning is in specific enterprises. My learning is not in the healthcare delivery system.
No.
My dear friend who's become the deputy minister took his learning there very seriously. He's also my ex-brother-in-law, Victor Bampo, and he loves healthcare delivery. My learning is in media and communication, arts, culture, and tourism. So media and communication you can put in one bag. Arts, culture, and tourism another bag. So when I go to any Ghanaian restaurant, whether it's a top restaurant, a medium one, or what we call a chop bar. And a chop bar should not be the low-end restaurant. It should be the bush canteen, which is the low-end one. If a waiter or waitress does not do things right, I get up, I pull them to the side, and I tell them what has to be done.
Yeah.
I mean, in Ghana, some will say, oh, you too no. But you see, that's where my brother Ace Ankuma says, if somebody ever tells anybody that you're too known, your response should be, you too know some. Because if you know some, then you will see that the person is not too known. But it is because you don't know
that's why
that they come across as too known.
Yeah.
I mean,
Quick one, actually. Right now that we're talking about too known, maybe you have some interesting but too known and not too known questions you want to ask us. Our hashtag, though, is Cosmopolitan Mix. Follow us on Twitter. You can send us a text to 1422 and you can send us a WhatsApp on 0244340437. Before we go to your next song that you asked me about, let me quickly talk about something that is related to the media. I realized in everything that I read about you that, I had to update myself as to what you have achieved in the past couple of years. I was reading something about the Che Dakwa Foundation, the charity for mentorship and, training in the arts, culture, tourism, etiquette, and public communication. What's it all about? Do you get to mentor people?
Yes, essentially, mentorship is about, it does not reside in the educational system. It resides outside the educational system. However, you work with educational institutions as well as professional institutions and parents as well as churches. So for churches in England, I've spoken to the youth about building your personal brand. And I've also spoken to the Gallywood School of filmmaking in Ghana about the future of African film. What the actor, director, and producer need to be aware of. And then I've spoken to owners of restaurants and their staff about getting the repeat customer. You see, because the point is, if our culture industries are working well, we may not even need foreigners to come here for us to do well. Because at every point in time, every nation has only so much wealth. But if that wealth is well distributed, the things that matter to us most, our necessities, will be looked after. I mean, can you imagine the number of Ghanaian people who may have money sitting in foreign banks, whose wives and children do not know, who will die and the banks will keep the money? So one of the things I talk about is dress as you wish to be addressed.
True.
And let me just give you an insight into that on this one. See, every job has a uniform. People don't seem to recognize this. But the TV news reader has a uniform. The TV news reader must dress like the president of his country. And that is to say, if his president dresses well. Because if your president does not dress well enough, then the TV news reader must dress better than the president of his country. See, the news reader brings salient information across to the population within which he resides. And when he speaks, he must not come across as a comedian. It is the reason why serious news channels do not let people who do news and current affairs go also to do entertainment. So you separate them. We have entertainment on one side. So on the side of entertainment, you can have your sports, you can have your religion, you can have your ethics and all that. And then you can have your hard news and current affairs. They must be credible. They must come across as somebody who, if they borrowed money from you, would pay back. In fact, they must come across as somebody who would be the one you would go to borrow money from. So in dressing as you wish to be addressed, you must ask yourself first and foremost, what do I want to project myself as? And what do I do to earn my keep? And who am I? Of these three questions, the most difficult is who am I?
and it actually I just had to cut you in because I mean we all know you for your fashion sense, but there had to be something that puts you there, because then you just didn't wake up one day and decide that I want to dress like this. I am sure something inspired you to do that, and we just want to know.
It is who I am. First and foremost, I am a proud African son, the son of two Ashanti parents from the Adansi tradition. But in describing myself, when I was asked on BET International on the program Mad Swag, where I was talking about personal branding, they said, "Who are you?" And I said, I am the son of dignified Africans. I like to think that I am cultured, cosmopolitan, and African.
Nice.
Cultured.
Cosmopolitan and African. Probably that's definitely where you get all that
Cultured,
swag from.
cultured entity.
Yeah.
You know,
Entity, yeah. True.
everybody makes errors.
Yeah.
Everybody makes mistakes. But if you're cultured, you will have a certain upbringing and a certain education. The upbringing alone will not cut it.
Right.
The education alone will not cut it either. You need a combination of both. You know, it is being cultured that makes you rise when your elder walks into a room. It's not because you're cool. You know,
Yeah.
and it is being educated that teaches you to say, how do you do, when somebody says, how do you do? So you get some culture, you get some education. And to be cosmopolitan is essentially to have a good worldview and to be able to live in different cultures and be able to live harmoniously with them. Because those who are not cosmopolitan, I mean, you can be English and expect to go to India and expect everybody to act English.
Yeah.
That's not
That's right.
cosmopolitan.
No, not at all.
You know, there's a philosopher who wrote something. It's actually on the wall in an airport, which I can't remember immediately. It says, if you will not enjoy the cuisine, if you will not walk in the streets, if you will not go and view the art, and you will not speak the language of the people, then why travel?
100% well said. Quickly go to our text messages. It said, Priceless Zita says, they can't keep you down forever. KKD is the man. That's priceless. Harry Winston says, Soul Sister, you've done it again with my man KKD. No size. Bachman Opon says, I'm listening to you live inside to Tuekwapim. Thank you for listening to us. Send us more of your messages. 0244340437. Says, hi Doreen, please tell my boss KKD I miss him. You didn't add your name. Okay, Royal Backness.
So I had sex with
Hang on a minute. I like to go to that song and then we'll come back, because for me everything is patience. We'll get there in a second. Let's hear from Kwabna.
For some lollipop, baby, me no back row, me no back row. We gon' start with you on top. Champagne up and it's you
I had to see KK do his zone too. Boy, man, is good. Oh, that's your steps, nigga. I like this one too. It's the new one from Kwabna. And of course, just before we went into that track, you were just about to talk about something that was in the news. A lot of it in the news, actually, at the latter part of 2014 and then getting into 2015.
And you know, the thing is that when you've been accused of something, you have a legal system and the police system to deal with it. Now, I'm sad. I am very sad. I am very sad because I think we live in a country where we have too many people who smile in your face and talk behind your back, and when you get the story, it is never exact. They say they're friends, but they really are not, because they're only out to try and get what you've got. And those are not my words. They are the words from an old record from Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five called Survival. So yes, for those who are bothered, you know, I would say I'm sorry, first and foremost, to everybody who feels offended that a grown man has had carnal relations with a young woman who by law in our country is above the age to be lawfully married. To all those who are offended, I say I'm sorry. But for those who want to continue slaying, because somebody, a young man, not the lady, goes to a police station first, to Legon police station, not to Airport police station, to try and lie about you. And then he's told, but if that is the case, where is the victim?
Right.
And then he goes to another place to tell a different story and forces a young lady there who says, no, I have not been raped. I will not say I've been raped. I was not there. but there were people there. There was a station officer there called Ahiable and 2 others there who will still testify to this. If it got to court, all this would come out. Let every man everywhere in the world know this. If you live the cleanest life or you live the dirtiest life, the one thing people can use to get you down, and that you cannot do anything about unless it is tried and you are discharged, is a lie of rape. Because it is a story that only 2 people can speak to. Now, how come I get a bill of indictment that does not even have the statement of the one person who could say she has been raped? Of the one person who tells the police that, oh, after having sex with him from the front, I turned around and then I arched my back and... Wait a minute. If you're doing stuff willingly... Now, whilst people were seeking to destroy me, what hurt me is that people were seeking to destroy a young lady who had gone and done whatever she wants to do in private.
And had come talk about it in public.
And now are trying to use her to hurt somebody who is above them or who is the same as them or who is below them, and trying to destroy her too.
Right. Anyways, I'll tell you something. This whole case has done its, runarounds in the court. I'm not going to hold brief for anybody.
It's discharged.
Yes.
And I am sitting down and waiting. You see, because you know how in the olden days they say, so be a biwa okana nokre. So before you die, you call your husband and you say, sweetheart, you know our second child. I had him with the driver. And as for our third child, I'm sorry, the man who you used to borrow money from, is for him. So essentially, I have told my truth. Those who still want to know, those who love me so much that they're so interested in the story, the records are public. You can go and look for the young lady's statement, which she was going to rely on in court, and look for mine too.
Right. Let me find out from you exactly, when all of this happened, when you had to go to the police station and you got to the point when you realized that, oh, I'm going to have to be in here for another day, another night. What went through your mind? How did you feel?
I felt ill. I felt numb. Because you see, there's only one truth. And when you're fighting the truth, you can get into a state of madness. I've been treated for depression for over a year.
Oh, wow.
Yes, clinical depression. And so when I look back on it, I nearly died on a plane when I was fortunate to have 2 doctors on the plane, one of whom was actually a doctor from the hospital where I had surgery on my knee in Kensington and Chelsea. And it was horrible. And that day when I came back, when I landed in Ghana, my lawyer had said, okay, see, some people say you shouldn't wear a suit to court. I said, those are the only things I had. So Moody, my designer in Nigeria, who I'm a brand ambassador for, had brought me some clothes, and he had made one in short sleeves, and I hardly ever wear short sleeves. So I wore something short sleeve to court. And I'm surprised that one of your people chose to use that picture on the net today, but that's a subject for another discussion.
Exactly.
And I said, no, I'm just going to wear my suit to court. So I just picked one of my handmade suits and wore it. And I said, look, whatever they want to do, they will do it. If it takes 20 years, the truth will come out. And once it does come out, those who are jumping on my grave, KKD is going to die. I'm so happy he's going to die. Now, if I die, how much money is it going to put in your pocket?
Yeah.
And then those who are saying, oh yeah, I believe it. He's even gone out with me before. Where are you? I don't know you. I don't go out with the likes of you. We don't even serve, our dog food on faces like yours. It's worrying that people...
What went through your mind that day?
I was numb.
And
I think it's good that I was numb, because in my numbness, I didn't feel anything.
And you couldn't say anything either.
Yeah.
And for the number of days, you were in there for like 2 weeks, was it?
I was there for 19 days.
19, so over 2 weeks, 2 weeks and a couple of days.
And what people don't understand is that in all those 19 days, all my good lawyer was doing was trying to get me bail, because my knee got so big I couldn't put trousers through it.
Sugar.
And the blood pressure was up, and there was fear I had a clot. So we were spending money to look after myself whilst I was there. So I was virtually going to the hospital and coming back every day. But wherever you are, do the best you can.
Yeah. So how many were there? Like a few people around you in that same cell, or you were just
There were a lot of people, and I think it's also sad that the airport police station, which should be maybe the richest police station in the country, because
that's what you think.
no, which should be. I'm not saying the policemen there are rich. I know police salaries are not necessarily the best.
Yeah.
But if you look at how much it costs to get bail from there, for the number of people who go there, the conditions there are poor. And you see, when somebody is there, detained, not as a convict, but as an accused person. You see, an accused person is either guilty or not guilty. So if somebody comes, well, in Ghana, the law doesn't say a woman can rape a man. It's only a man who can rape a woman, so it says. So if your girlfriend with whom you've had a relationship for 12 years finds out you intend to leave her and she has sex with you and she has your semen on her, and she goes to the police to say you've raped her, unless you have some ocular proof, or unless you get a good lawyer to let her show how she tried not to even be in that place, or how she tried to resist even having sex with you. Because the strongest muscles in your body are in your legs. And when you willingly sit on a sink and spread your legs, and after that bend over a sink and arch your back, and you're taller than the man, so your back is higher than him because you're also in high heels, and you're willingly bending your knee, because unless a man has 12 hands, show me how. There's a bedroom, how you do that, especially also when there's two people sitting right in the next room and the bathroom doors have slats, not a slammed door. It's difficult. So my prayer, and I don't want to mention the lady's name because she has to be able to get on with her life. But can Ghanaians stop pretending that people above 18 years old in Ghana do not have sex? Let's cut the pretense already, because the law says at 18 you can be lawfully married. So I just don't understand it. And there's one guy who bleaches his face, who pretends to be a lawyer, who just chooses to insult everybody, who has some sort of a following. And, somebody saw him going into a hotel with some young girl, and it was one of my tailors. So my tailor says, look, you're talking about my brother, and here you are. And he was telling my tailor, oh, Masa, so he said,
Salavi, but let me find out from you. Basically, all of this court cases and everything, actually, when
there were no court cases.
No,
we were just fighting for bail.
Yeah,
that's all.
And basically, when the case was thrown out, how did that make you feel, and how have you moved on from that?
I felt angry, but I was fortunate. My young daughter, and she's a very mature young person. She bought her own ticket and flew from London to come down because she said she wanted to accompany me to court. I remember the first time my son heard the case, he called me and he says, "Dad, who's trying to blackmail you for money?" And she was there, so that was a good thing. And I was angry, but I was fortunate to have some good people around me. Dr. Lawrence Tete, God bless you. God bless you. And I want to say a very, very big thank you to Leslie Tex Boabasa as well. God bless you. Reverend C.C. Alice, God bless you. Mayor Kojo Bonsu. Boating Jemfi, Pajima Jemfi, Kofi Bond of El Elyon Hotel, Nana Santibedi Etio, my brother, love you to bits. And Dr. Lawrence Tete told me something which I will never forget, and I want to tell this to everybody. Whether you're hating on somebody or loving somebody, the message is for you too. Dr. Lawrence Tete says, Kwesi, I know how you feel. I know you will never be a violent person. I've known you since you were a boy. But there are people around you who may want to be violent and do things to others. Tell them all not to do so, because if they do it in your name. But also, I want you to have a forgiving heart. First, forgive yourself, because no matter how you put it, you fornicated. So you still have to forgive yourself and seek forgiveness from God. Because you fornicated. If you have sex with any woman who is not your wife, you fornicated. But next, forgive everybody who tried to use this act to hurt you.
Yeah.
Because in forgiving them, they will get their own comeuppance.
I
Some of them have
agree.
died. Some of them have lost their jobs. Some of them are doing well. I will not say who is where.
Well, at the end of the day, what you did was to forgive them, which is definitely what is being preached in the Bible. That's what God says we should do. Before we go, let me finally ask you about how all of this has affected your brand and how you're, picking up and
That is a
rebranding and
question.
moving
That is
on.
a question that my dear brother Nana Kwesi Suavakwe asked me at church. And I found the way it was reported quite interesting, because you see, if you have a brand, right, all you get is customers of that brand, well-wishers of that brand, and people who just will not buy the brand.
Okay.
It's either you buy Coca-Cola or you don't.
Right.
So if you're losing customers to your brand, then it's affected your brand. Now, if your brand has saturated, if it's reached the peak that you cannot add any more, then you reinvent your brand. But by God's grace, I am alive, I am well, and I am thankful. And if any brand can say so, I think it's more than any others can
So
say.
it's definitely not a reinvention of the brand, but it's just moving on with the brand as is, right?
Aren't you thankful to be alive
I am
today?
absolutely grateful.
I am
for it.
so thankful. Look, do you know how many people have died in the past year?
Oh, we can't even count.
Do you
it
know
right
how
now.
many people were lied about in the past year?
No, I don't.
Do you know how many people had sex with other people's wives in the past year?
No, I don't.
And how many people had, carnal relations with people younger or older than me in the past year? Each one of them will give their commentary. But some of them cannot even comment about me in the presence of their husbands or their wives, because they know that they are worse. Na so anye bone da no. Anto bo mo ba no. Tobo. My try say chingom. Tobo.
Well, the thing is, at least you did the most important thing. You said you were sorry, and since you're forgiving the people who spoke wrong about you and you're forgiving yourself, it's now time for you to move on. In a few words, tell us what your plan is for the new year and what you will be up to, God willing, in this new year.
My plan is to stay alive and to look for God's purpose in my life. I've always done that. God has been extremely kind to my family and I. I was married, to a young lady. We had a beautiful life. We moved to England. The marriage didn't work. We broke up. When you break up, somebody has to raise the kids. I raised the kids, and the kids are doing great. She is well. I am well. Our children are well. My parents are alive and well.
At your age.
And my friends are alive and well. As for my haters, I pray that they don't go to hell.
Gracie, thank you so very much for chatting. We don't want to do the hate game here. We just want to love, 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 love. Today, it's been absolutely amazing. Thank you for the insights.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us on the Cosmopolitan Mix with the Queen Doreen and the Citric Dakwa. Thank you very much indeed. May all the joy of each new day greet you with the rising sun, and may it wrap you close around until the day is done. Now we've come to the end of our story. We leave you with love and respect and give God the glory. Have a lovely day.
Amen, brother. And thank you all so very much for